Look at your life right now and realize it's just one frame in a movie with infinite endings. The secret high performers and spiritual masters use to jump timelines isn't hard work. It's a specific awareness of the quantum now, where all versions of your identity coexist. You can actually pull your future self's energy into your present body today, dissolving the blocks that have held you back for years. And the best part is, the universe is already programmed to help you do it. You know that inexplicable feeling of déjà vu that appears suddenly, not as a fleeting memory of a past event, but as a visceral pulse of a life you haven't yet lived. Or perhaps you've felt a sudden magnetic pull to a dream that feels more like a memory than a fantasy. This is a common thread for those of us navigating the intersection of quantum mechanics and spiritual evolution. The traditional narrative tells us that time is a rigid, unfurling ribbon, a one-way street where your current identity is the only valid expression of your existence. But modern quantum theory and contemporary authors specializing in the architecture of reality suggest something much more provocative. The version of you that has already achieved your deepest desires is not a future possibility floating in a distant maybe. Instead, that version exists right now simultaneously, on a parallel frequency of the quantum field. We are not talking about science fiction or metaphorical illusions. We are talking about the mechanics of the wave function and the observer effect applied to your personal identity. Stop and really let that sink in for a second. We spend our whole lives running toward a finish line that we think is miles away. But what if the finish line is just a different frequency you haven't tuned into yet? It flips the whole concept of hustle on its head. You aren't building a version of yourself from scratch. You are uncovering a version that already possesses the success you crave. If you change the maybe to an already, how does your confidence change right now? To truly grasp this, we must dismantle the illusion of linear progression. Imagine the universe not as a timeline, but as a vast, high-definition television broadcast. Every channel, every show, and every episode exists simultaneously as radio waves in the air. The reason you see a specific program on your screen isn't because the other shows don't exist. It's simply because your receiver, your consciousness, is tuned to a specific frequency. In this analogy, the you who is struggling with financial lack, creative blocks, or emotional stagnation is just one channel. A few megahertz away, there is a version of you operating with peak intelligence, profound abundance, and absolute clarity. The gap between you and that higher self isn't a gap of time or effort, but a gap of resonance. When we talk about accessing other realities, we are discussing the art of energetic recalibration. We are shifting from being a passive observer of a fixed story to an active tuner of our own existential broadcast. Think about the concept of synchronicity. When you see repeating numbers or meet the exact person you were thinking about, the universe is winking at you, showing you that the partitions between different realities are thinner than you think. These are micro glitches in the linear script, proof that you are part of an interconnected web of intelligence. Authors like Dr. Joe Dispenza or the pioneers of quantum biohaptics suggest that your body is a literal antenna. Every thought you think and every emotion you feel broadcasts a specific electromagnetic signature into the quantum field. If you are constantly broadcasting the frequency of wanting, the universe has no choice but to keep you in the reality of not having. To bridge the divide, you must learn to collapse the wave of possibility into a new particle of experience by embodying the frequency of the destination before the physical evidence arrives. In this exploration, we are going to dive deep into how you can stop chasing a future that doesn't exist and start inhabiting the reality that is already waiting for your recognition. The version of you who is already thriving is calling out to you through your intuition. Now it's time to learn how to pick up the phone and answer that call. The fundamental conflict we face when trying to bridge the gap between our current circumstances and the version of ourselves that already exists in a state of fulfillment is not a lack of effort, but a profound misunderstanding of how the biological machine interacts with the quantum field. You might feel like you are doing everything right, reading the books, reciting the affirmations, visualizing the desired outcome, yet you wake up in the same room with the same bank balance and the same underlying sense of anxiety. This is what we call the observation trap, a neurological and energetic feedback loop that anchors you to a timeline you are desperately trying to leave behind. To understand why your transition to this other reality hasn't happened yet, we have to look at the sheer weight of your past. Most people believe they are thinking new thoughts, but in reality, About 90 to 95% of their daily thoughts are exact replicas of the thoughts they had the day before. Because your brain is a record of the past, a living artifact of everything you have ever experienced, you're essentially trying to build a new skyscraper using only the rubble of a demolished house. This is exactly why most New Year's resolutions fail within 2 weeks. We try to change the external results while keeping the same internal mess of old thoughts and fears. You can't construct a masterpiece out of the same bricks that made your house of lack. You have to be willing to clear the site completely. That means letting go of the old victim stories and the "it's too hard" narratives. You need new materials, a new mindset, and a new energetic blueprint to build that skyscraper life. The problem starts with the sensory feedback loop. Every morning, you open your eyes and your senses immediately confirm your existing identity. You see the same peeling paint on the wall, you feel the same texture of the sheets, you hear the same city traffic, and you smell the same coffee. In that split second, your brain scans its internal hard drive and says, "Oh, this is who I am, and this is where I am." This recognition process triggers a specific neurochemical signature. You start feeling the same emotions associated with your current life, perhaps a dull sense of obligation, the stress of unpaid bills, or the loneliness of a stagnant relationship. This cycle creates a closed loop where your environment is actually controlling your mind. If your environment is consistent and your internal state reacts predictably to that environment, you are effectively trapped in a singular, repeating version of yourself. You are observing your current reality with such intense focus and emotional conviction that the quantum field has no choice but to collapse into the same localized event over and over again. You are literally re-observing your problems into existence every single morning. Consider the analogy of a radio receiver that is permanently stuck between two frequencies. You want to hear the symphony of your success, but the dial is rusted onto the static of your survival. This survival state is the primary blocker. When you live in stress, your body enters an emergency mode, the fight-or-flight response. In this state, your pupils dilate, your heart rate increases, and your brain shifts into high beta brainwave patterns. In high beta, your focus becomes narrow, obsessive, and analytical. You become overly concerned with the outer world, time, space, and the physical body. The irony is that the version of you who exists in that other reality is not found in the material world. She or he exists in the unified field, a place beyond time and space. As long as you are obsessing over how it will happen, when it will arrive, and where you are currently failing, you are vibrating at a frequency that is diametrically opposed to the abundance you seek. You are trying to find a solution using the same level of consciousness that created the problem, which, according to quantum principles, is a mathematical impossibility. This is the survival mode trap. When you're stressed about bills or status, your brain literally locks you out of your creative potential. You're in a physiological panic that makes it impossible to see the opportunities right in front of your face. Furthermore, we must address the emotional addiction to suffering. This sounds harsh, but it is a biological reality. When you feel guilt, resentment, or lack for years, your body becomes habituated to those chemicals. The cells in your body actually develop receptors for these stress hormones. When you suddenly try to shift into a reality where you are wealthy, loved, or healthy, your body goes through a literal withdrawal process. It craves the hit of the old emotion because that emotion is familiar. And in the language of the ego, familiar equals safe. This is why you might have a great day of manifestation, only to find yourself picking a fight with a loved one or doom scrolling through negative news the next day. Your body is subconsciously seeking a reason to feel its old, limited self again. It is demanding its chemical fix of cortisol and adrenaline. Until you recognize that your body is currently the mind, you will remain an inhabitant of the old reality, looking through a window at a life you can see but never touch. This creates a phenomenon known as temporal inconsistency. You are physically in 2024, but emotionally you are living in a trauma from 2015 or a failure from 2019. If your emotional state is anchored in the past, your quantum signature is broadcasting a message to the universe that says, "I am still that person." The universe, being a mirror of your internal state rather than your verbal requests, simply complies by providing more experiences that validate that identity. You aren't being punished by the universe. You are simply witnessing the flawless execution of quantum law. You cannot experience a wealthy life while carrying the emotional DNA of a pauper. You cannot experience a loving relationship while your internal chemistry is brewing a cocktail of unworthiness. The problem isn't that the other reality doesn't exist. It's that you are literally invisible to it because your frequency is tuned to a different channel. You are trying to manifest a miracle from a state of survival, and those two frequencies can never occupy the same space. Deepening this issue is the concept of identity entanglement. We define ourselves by our roles: a parent, a worker, a victim of a specific circumstance. We become so entangled with these labels that letting go of them feels like a form of death. To access the other reality, you have to be willing to lose your current self. But the human brain is wired to fear the unknown above all else. Even if the current reality is painful, it is known. The other reality, even if it is beautiful, is unknown, and therefore perceived as a threat by the primitive brain. This is why most people stay in the waiting room of their lives. They wait for a sign, for a shift in the economy, or for someone else to change, not realizing that the barrier is the very identity they protect so fiercely. You are effectively trying to cross an ocean while being terrified of losing sight of the shore. But the shore you are clinging to is the very thing that keeps you grounded in the frustration and lack you claim you want to escape. You are stuck in the middle ground of wishing, which is a state of perpetual longing that only manifests more longing. To transition from the abstract longing of the waiting room into the actual occupation of your desired reality, we must first master the art of what quantum physicists call the observer effect, but applied to the architecture of your internal identity. The solution is not to become someone new through sheer effort or external accumulation, but to perform a radical shift in your resonant frequency so that the version of you that already exists in the quantum field becomes your new dominant reality. Think of your life as a television set that is currently tuned to Channel 4, a channel defined by struggle, moderate success, and a persistent feeling of being almost there. You are trying to see the programming of Channel 10, which represents your highest potential, while your tuner is still physically and energetically locked into the frequency of Channel 4. No matter how hard you pray, visualize, or work, you will only see the static of frustration because you haven't changed the dial. The value we are delivering here is the precise method to change that dial, moving from the identity of a seeker to the identity of a possessor. The first practical step in this quantum realignment is the process of sensory anticipation. Most people operate on a reactionary loop. They wait to see a change in their bank account or their relationships before they allow themselves to feel the emotion of abundance or love. In the quantum realm, this is backwards. To collapse the wave of a specific possibility into your physical experience, you must cultivate the elevated emotion of the harvest before the seeds have even sprouted. This isn't just positive thinking. It is a physiological overhaul. You must teach your body, which is your subconscious mind, what it feels like to have already achieved your goal. If the version of you that is successful feels confident, relaxed, and generous, you cannot wait for the success to arrive to practice those feelings. You must inhabit those states now, even in the midst of contrary evidence. By doing this, you are effectively signaling the quantum field that the event has already occurred. When the body and the mind are in alignment with a specific frequency, the environment has no choice but to reorganize itself to match that internal state. This is how you stop chasing and start attracting. Consider the micro-history of a client I once observed who was struggling to transition from a mid-level corporate job to a high-level creative visionary role. He spent years wanting the new role, which only reinforced the frequency of not having it. The shift occurred when he stopped focusing on the job title and started focusing on the self-concept of the person who already held that power. He began to change small, seemingly insignificant habits that aligned with the higher frequency. He changed the way he walked, the way he organized his morning, and most importantly, the way he reacted to perceived failures. He began to view challenges not as threats to his survival, which is the hallmark of the old scarcity-based identity, but as data points for a leader. He was practicing the quantum rehearsal by mentally and emotionally rehearsing his reactions to high-stakes situations as his future self. He was literally pruning old synaptic connections in his brain and wiring new ones. Within months, the external reality snapped into place. He didn't have to fight for the promotion. The position was offered to him because he had become the energetic match for it. He was no longer a stranger to that reality. He was its inhabitant. To execute this yourself, you need to understand the mechanism of brain and heart coherence. The heart is the primary electrical generator of the body, and the brain is the primary magnetic generator. When they are out of sync, when you think about wealth but feel the sting of a bill, you are broadcasting a scrambled signal to the universe. To access the other reality, you must achieve coherence. This is done through a specific meditative practice where you focus on a feeling of gratitude. Why gratitude? Because gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. You only feel grateful when something has already happened. By flooding your system with the frequency of thank you, you are telling the quantum field that the transaction is complete. The future you lives in a permanent state of gratitude because they are no longer in the pursuit. Spend 15 minutes every morning not visualizing what you want, but feeling the relief of having it. Feel the weight of the success, the rhythm of a healthy heart, the lightness of a soul that knows it is supported. This creates a vacuum in your current reality that the universe is compelled to fill. Furthermore, we must address the environmental anchor. Your current reality is held in place by its surroundings. Your house, your car, your routine, and the people you talk to are all mirrors reflecting your current identity back to you. To jump to a new timeline, you must introduce quantum anomalies into your daily life. Small actions that belong to the new reality. If the version of you that is abundant wouldn't spend an hour complaining about the price of gas, then you must stop that behavior immediately. If the version of you that is healthy wouldn't hit the snooze button 4 times, you must align your physics with that version. These are not just good habits. They are navigational corrections. Each time you act as the new version of yourself, you are cutting a tether to the old timeline. You're telling the universe, I no longer recognize the person I was 5 minutes ago. This consistency is what builds the quantum momentum necessary to overcome the inertia of your old life. I love this idea of quantum anomalies. Every time you make a choice that the rich or healthy you would make, you're literally snapping the ropes holding you back. It's a physical vote for your new identity that the universe cannot ignore. One of the most profound tools in this delivery of value is the concept of stealing the memory of the future. Our brains cannot distinguish between a deeply felt internal experience and a physical external event. You can use this to your advantage by creating memories of things that haven't happened yet. In your mind's eye, go to a specific moment, 3 years from now. Don't look at it from the outside like a movie. Look through your own eyes. Who are you talking to? What does the air smell like? What is the texture of the clothes you are wearing? Most importantly, what is your internal dialogue? If you do this with enough sensory intensity, your nervous system begins to accept this future as a past certainty. You begin to operate with a level of calm and conviction that is magnetic. You are no longer trying to manifest. You are simply walking toward a destination that you have already visited. This removes the desperation that usually kills manifestation. It moves you from the frequency of I need to the frequency of it is done. Think of this transition like a pilot flying through a fog. The pilot cannot see the runway with their eyes, so they rely entirely on their instruments. Your physical senses are your eyes in the fog. They tell you that nothing has changed, that you are still in the same room with the same problems. But your internal instruments, your emotions, your intentions, and your focused will are telling you that the destination is there. If the pilot ignores the instruments and flies by sight, they will crash. If you ignore your quantum alignment and react only to what you see, you will stay stuck in the old reality. You must trust the dashboard of your soul. You must stay locked onto the coordinates of the new reality until the fog clears and the runway appears. This is the stage where most people fail because they demand the fog clear before they trust the instruments. But in the quantum field, trust is the currency that clears the fog. By resolving the conflict between your inner world and your outer world, you finally give the universe permission to deliver the version of you that has been waiting patiently behind the veil of possibility. Wait. Before we dive deeper into the mechanics of these parallel identities, I need you to pause and feel the weight of what we just discussed. If you are sitting there thinking this is just a poetic metaphor for self-improvement, you are missing the monumental shift occurring in contemporary quantum theory. We aren't talking about a version of you that might exist in 10 years through hard labor. We are talking about a mathematical certainty, a frequency that is currently vibrating at a specific coordinate in the infinite field of possibilities. Think of your consciousness like a radio dial. Right now you are tuned to the static of struggle station, but the success and vitality broadcast is transmitting at the exact same moment on a different frequency. You just aren't hearing it yet because your internal antenna is locked. Have you ever had a sudden moment of déjà vu or a weirdly specific intuition that saved you? That wasn't a glitch. It was a momentary synchronization between your current self and the version of you that has already navigated the path you're afraid of. Scientists like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Fred Alan Wolfe suggest that these future versions aren't waiting for time to catch up. They are actively pulling you toward them through the collapse of the wave function. If you've felt a strange restlessness lately, it's not anxiety. It's the version of you that is already wealthy, healthy, and aligned, literally knocking on the door of your current perception, demanding to be let in. Even if you have accepted the idea that multiple versions of yourself exist, and you've begun the process of signaling a new intention, you will almost certainly encounter a phenomenon that stops most people in their tracks before they ever reach their destination. This is the paradox of the quantum void, or the interval of silence. When you decide to shift your frequency and step into a reality where you are already successful, healed, or fulfilled, the universe doesn't always respond with immediate applause or a shower of gold coins. Instead, what often happens is a period of absolute, deafening silence. This is the new problem that no one warns you about: the disintegration of your old world. Most people mistake this disintegration for failure. They think that because their current life hasn't immediately transformed into a Hollywood montage of success, the quantum stuff isn't working. In reality, what is happening is a profound structural collapse necessary for your new identity to take root. If you are building a skyscraper where a small cottage once stood, the first thing you have to do is demolish the cottage. During that demolition phase, the site looks like a disaster area. It looks worse than it did before. There is dust, debris, and noise. This is exactly what happens to your life when you begin to access a higher frequency reality. Your old friends might stop calling. Your current career might feel suddenly intolerable, or your physical body might even go through a period of exhaustion as it recalibrates to a higher energetic load. But stop. Look at what I just said. Most people assume that chaos is a sign they are failing, but it's actually the exact opposite occurring inside your life. It's a deliberate deconstruction. If your life feels like it's falling apart right now, you aren't losing. You're being cleared for a much larger construction. The problem here is that the human nervous system is biologically wired to seek homeostasis, a state of equilibrium and familiarity. Your brain interprets this transitional chaos as a survival threat. When you aren't getting the old feedback loops from your environment that tell you who you are, even if that who was miserable, the ego begins to panic. It starts whispering that you've made a mistake, that you're being delusional, or that you're losing your mind. This is the novo problema, or the deep challenge of sustaining a frequency in a vacuum. You are essentially trying to hold on to a vision of a reality that has no physical evidence yet, while the reality you are trying to leave is crumbling around you. This creates a state of cognitive and energetic dissonance that is physically painful. If you don't understand that this is a natural part of the quantum collapse, you will inevitably revert to your old frequency just to stop the discomfort. You will go back to the cottage because even though it was cramped and leaky, it felt safe. But once you have seen the blueprints for the skyscraper, the cottage will never truly be home again. You will be stuck in a state of perpetual half-manifestation, caught between a world you no longer fit into and a world you are too afraid to fully inhabit. This challenge is further complicated by the echo effect. In the quantum field, time is not linear, but our sensory perception is. When you change your internal broadcast today, you are still experiencing the echoes of the thoughts and emotions you had 6 months ago. The physical world is dense and slow. It has a certain amount of mass or latency. Because of this, you might be broadcasting "I am abundant" while looking at a bank balance that reflects the "I am broke" frequency you held for the last decade. This is where the true test of the quantum practitioner lies. Can you maintain the internal state of the version of you that is already wealthy, even when your senses are reporting the exact opposite? Most people cannot. They allow the 3D reality to dictate their internal state. They see the bill in the mail, they feel the sting of lack, They drop their frequency back down to struggle, and the cycle resets. They are effectively canceling their order with the universe because the delivery truck didn't arrive the second they clicked purchase. To access the other reality, you have to become immune to the current one. You have to develop a form of constructive blindness to the limitations of your present circumstances. Think of it like ordering a pizza. Just because it's not at your door 30 seconds after you call doesn't mean the kitchen isn't cooking it. The material world is heavy. It takes time to rearrange itself around your new frequency. This latency is where most people give up and cancel their order. They look at their current bank account and say, "I guess it didn't work," and they immediately switch back to the old frequency. The key is to trust your internal signal more than your external sight. If you can stay in that state of, "it is done," despite the lag, the physical world has no choice but to catch up. Another nuance of this problem is the subtle trap of trying to manifest. The moment you are trying to get somewhere, you are reinforcing the fact that you aren't there. If you are in London and you are trying to get to London, you are in a state of psychological confusion. The version of you that already exists in the desired reality isn't trying to be successful. They already are. Therefore, the frequency of trying is actually a frequency of lack. It is a desperate energy that pushes the desired reality away because it is fundamentally different from the frequency of having. This is the subtle sabotage of the spiritual seeker. You spend hours meditating, visualizing, and scripting, but you are doing it from a place of, "Please let this happen," rather than "it is done." This creates a longing loop. You become a professional vanisher, someone who is always on the verge of a breakthrough but never actually breaks through. You are stuck in the waiting room of the quantum field, and the receptionist is just reflecting your own waiting energy back at you. Furthermore, we must address the anchors of social reality. We do not live in a vacuum. We are surrounded by people, family, friends, co-workers, who are deeply invested in us staying the way we are. When you start to shift into a different reality, you aren't just changing yourself, you are changing the agreement you have with everyone around you. Their observation of you acts as a collapsing mechanism for your wave function. In quantum physics, the observer affects the observed. If everyone in your life observes you as the struggling artist or the unlucky in love friend, their collective observation acts as a heavy anchor, pinning you to that specific version of reality. To truly transition, you often have to navigate the social friction of people trying to pull you back down to earth. They aren't doing it to be mean. They are doing it because your change forces them to question their own stagnation. Your evolution makes them uncomfortable. If you are not prepared for this social resistance, you will find yourself unconsciously dimming your light or reverting to old behaviors just to keep the peace. You end up sacrificing your quantum potential on the altar of social conformity. The struggle is also physiological. Your body is a chemical factory, and your emotions are the labels for the chemicals you are addicted to. If you have lived in a state of stress or lack for years, your cells have actually developed more receptors for those specific stress hormones. When you try to inhabit the frequency of a version of yourself that is peaceful and empowered, your body literally goes through withdrawal. It will create random thoughts of worry or remind you of past failures just to get you to fire those familiar chemical signals. This is why you might feel an inexplicable urge to check your ex's social media or ruminate on a mistake you made 5 years ago, right when you're starting to feel good. It's your body's way of demanding its hit of cortisol or adrenaline. You are fighting a war on two fronts: the external vacuum of the void and the internal biological addiction to your old identity. Understanding that these obstacles are not signs that you are doing something wrong, but rather evidence that you are successfully breaking the old mold, is the only way through. You have to learn to sit in the fire of the new problem without flinching, knowing that the intense heat is simply the old you burning away to make room for the one who already exists in the light. To truly move from the conceptual understanding of the quantum field into the lived experience of your desired reality, we must navigate the final and most profound shift: the absolute dissolution of the waiting self. Most people treat manifestation like a transaction. They put in the emotional work and then wait at the mailbox for the universe to deliver the package. But in the quantum landscape, there is no postal service because there is no distance between you and the outcome. The climax of this process is not achieving something new. It is the radical recognition that the version of you who already possesses what you desire is not a future entity, but a current frequency that you are simply tuning out. Think of it like a radio in a room. Just because you are listening to static doesn't mean the symphony isn't playing on another station. Both exist simultaneously in the same space. The solution lies in the quantum collapse of identity, where you stop trying to get somewhere and start being the destination itself. This requires a level of cognitive and emotional audacity that most people shy away from because it feels like a form of madness to the logical mind. However, as quantum physicist Amit Goswami suggests, consciousness is the ground of all being. If consciousness is the primary reality, then your internal state is the only true cause, and the external world is merely the shadow cast by that state. To facilitate this collapse, you must engage in what we call active transposition. This isn't just visualization, which often implies a separation between the observer and the observed, but rather a total sensory immersion where you inhabit the nervous system of your higher self. Imagine for a moment the specific version of you that has already solved the problems you are currently facing. That version of you doesn't wake up wondering if the money will come or if the partner will stay. They wake up with a sense of after-the-fact peace. This is the secret frequency. When you are in after-the-fact energy, you are no longer sending out the signal of wanting, which, as we discussed, only creates more wanting. Instead, you are broadcasting the signal of gratitude for having. In the quantum field, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. It is the signature that the event has already occurred. If you can sustain the feeling of gratitude for a reality that has not yet materialized in the 3D world, you are effectively telling the quantum field that the event has already happened. The laws of physics then dictate that the environment must reorganize itself to match your internal state. This is where synchronicities begin to accelerate. You'll find that people, opportunities, and lucky breaks start to gravitate toward you, not because you worked harder, but because you changed your gravitational pull. Let's look at a micro-history to illustrate this. Consider an architect who is tasked with building a skyscraper. Long before the first shovel hits the ground, the building is finished. It is finished in the blueprints, in the mind of the architect, and in the structural calculations. The architect doesn't hope the building will appear. They know it is a mathematical certainty because the foundation has been laid in the realm of information. You are the architect of your reality. Your thoughts and emotions are the blueprints. If you keep changing the blueprints every time you feel a bit of doubt, the construction crew, the quantum field, gets confused and stops building. The climactic shift happens when you decide that the internal blueprint is more real than the empty plot of land you see with your physical eyes. You must walk through the empty lot, seeing the skyscraper. You must feel the marble of the lobby and the wind on the balcony. When your internal senses become more vivid than your physical senses, the quantum wave function collapses. This is the moment where the possible you becomes the actual you. It is a surrender of the ego's need to know how it will happen, replaced by the soul's certainty that it is happening. This process is scientifically supported by the concept of neuroplasticity and the observer effect. When you consistently inhabit the emotional state of your successful self, you are literally pruning old neural pathways associated with lack and forging new ones associated with abundance. You are training your brain to see a different set of data. The reticular activating system, RAS, in your brain acts as a filter. When you shift your frequency, your RAS begins to highlight opportunities that were always there but were previously filtered out because they didn't match your vibration of lack. It's like buying a specific red car and suddenly seeing that red car everywhere on the highway. Those cars didn't just appear. You simply became tuned to their frequency. The version of you that is wealthy, healthy, and loved is everywhere on the highway. But until you buy into that identity, you remain blind to the exits that lead you to it. The real challenge, and the true solution, is the grit of belief. You will face moments where the old reality screams for your attention. Bills might arrive or a relationship might falter, and your old identity will try to reclaim the throne. This is the refractive period, where the old energy is flushing out of your system. Most people fail here. They see the old reality and say, "See, it didn't work." And by saying that, they immediately realign with the old frequency. The master, however, looks at the old reality and says, "This is just the echo of who I used to be. It has no power over who I am now." By refusing to give emotional weight to the old reflections, you starve them of energy until they eventually wither away. You are essentially starving the old timeline of its fuel. This is the climax. The moment you realize you are no longer a victim of circumstances, but the consciousness that determines which circumstances to animate. To practicalize this right now, I want you to identify one specific trait of your parallel, successful self. Is it the way they walk? The way they breathe during a stressful meeting? The way they look at their bank account with a smile of nonchalance? Pick that one trait and wear it for the next 24 hours. Do not wait for a reason to feel that way. Use your will to generate the feeling from within. This is quantum entrainment. By mimicking the frequency of the higher self, you begin to pull that reality toward you at an exponential rate. You are bridging the gap between the wave and the particle. You are no longer praying to a distant God or a fluctuating universe. You are recognizing that the universe is a mirror reflecting the light you choose to shine into it. The other you is not a dream. It is a mathematical probability that is currently waiting for you to occupy its space. As you step into this state, you will notice a strange phenomenon. Time will seem to behave differently. Things that used to take months will happen in days. The intelligence of the universe will take over the heavy lifting. This isn't magic, it's the efficient alignment of energy. When you stop resisting your greatness and stop identifying with your limitations, you become a superconductor for quantum possibility. The resistance, the doubt, the fear, the how-to, is what creates the friction that slows down manifestation. Remove the friction, and you slip effortlessly into the timeline where your desires are simply your everyday facts. This is the homecoming of the soul, the realization that you were never searching for a new life, but were simply waking up to the life that was already yours by divine and quantum right. You are the observer, the observed, and the process of observation all at once. The door is open. You don't need to knock. You just need to realize you are already inside the room. The transition is complete the moment you stop trying to make it happen and start allowing it to be true. This is the final collapse, the union of the self that was and the self that is, emerging as a singular, empowered consciousness, ready to command the atoms of its existence. Before we dive deeper into the specific mechanics of collapsing the wave function to find your ideal self, we need to address the energetic resonance between us right now. If you are still here, it is because your current frequency has recognized a pattern of truth in these words, a synchronization that isn't accidental. This is the precise moment where most people simply consume information as passive entertainment, but those who actually shift realities are those who commit to the journey of expansion. If this expansion of consciousness feels like the missing piece of your puzzle, I invite you to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. By joining this community, you aren't just following a channel. You are anchoring your intention in a collective field of high-vibration seekers who refuse to settle for a linear, limited existence. Take a second to also hit the like button. Doing so sends a powerful signal to the algorithm that this type of quantum knowledge needs to reach more souls ready for their awakening. Furthermore, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Write, "I am choosing my new frequency" to lock this intention into your physical reality. This simple act of typing serves as a micro-manifestation, moving the concept from the ethereal mind into the tangible world. We are building a momentum here that transcends simple video watching, preparing your nervous system for the deep architectural shifts we are about to discuss in the following chapters of this transformation.